Hi folks, who's watching the Murdoch trial? I want to talk about some of the skeletons that they have in their closet and how they all tie into the motive and the investigation into the death of Paula Maggie. I think I can simplify it in a short video with the help of a PowerPoint that I'll add in down below and put screenshots up here. Alec is on trial at the moment for the murder of his wife and his son. He definitely did it, in my opinion. But I also think there is a really good chance he's going to get away with this. It's all circumstantial evidence. Alec has a really good defence, obviously, and they have some very good and interesting tactics. Things could change very fast in the trial, and he's already been nabbed for a lot of lies. But at the moment, it feels like a coin toss to me. I can't call it. The Murdochs have been very bold in the past when it comes to closing statements in murder cases, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to get some real fireworks at the end of this trial as well. And I know from talking to some people that they're a bit confused with the whole story behind it. Don't let that put you off. It's not as complicated as you might think when you first kind of dip your toes in. There's a lot of podcasts out there with over 100 episodes. Seems like madness. Netflix have a documentary coming out at the end of the month, and if that's not number one for a few weeks, then whoever did that documentary has failed big time, because you couldn't make some of this stuff up. It sounds fictional, but it's real life. So I want to go over the kind of gist of the skeletons and the big picture stuff, because I think it might give people more of an understanding of the trial who are just kind of coming into it now, and hopefully I can do it in less than 10 minutes. I'm just going to touch on the Murdoch family, the family tree, skeletons in the closet, 3 bodies, Stephen Smith, Gloria Satterfield and Mallory Beach, and then how all that ties into Alec and money and drugs and the motive for all of this. We have a very powerful, wealthy, legal family in South Carolina. It's in the 14th district down south. It comprises of 5 counties, and it's known as Murdoch country by locals. The reason for that is for 86 years, from 1920 to I think 2005, 3 consecutive members of the family served as district attorney. So they have almost a century of huge judicial and political power down in the 14th district. They run that town. If you're getting prosecuted, you're getting prosecuted by them. If you're suing somebody, you're probably using their services. They were for a very long time an integral part of the judicial system there. Everybody in the family is a lawyer. It goes back generations. Randolph 1, 2, 3, 4, God knows what we're on now. Before the trial started, a portrait of Alec's grandfather, I think, had to be taken down in the court because their portraits are up in the court. They run it. Outside of the prosecution stuff, they also have a family law firm, or did have a family law firm, which was a huge litigation law firm in Hampton. It specialised in personal injury litigation, and as far as I know, the way the law is set up in Hampton, that there was a lot of business going through them because the person you were suing didn't necessarily have to reside in the state. A lot of deals were done on the courthouse steps, so a lot of money, and they have huge wealth. So you have these 3 district attorneys, one after the other. Every child that they have is also a lawyer, and that's where Alec comes into it. Alec is the son of Randolph III. He married Maggie, and they had 2 sons, Paul and Buster. So skeletons, what skeletons do they have in the closet? Well, they have 3 deaths. There's Stephen Smith in 2015, Gloria Satterfield 2018, and Mallory Beach in 2019. Stephen Smith, they said he died in a hit and run, and spoiler alert, it wasn't a hit and run. He had massive wounds, massive head wounds, but no damage to his clothes, and we had detectives disagreeing on the cause of death. The doctor who did his autopsy was fired. Stephen's mother never believed it. She never believed it. She said it was a police cover-up. He was basically found at the side of the road, beaten to death, and they tried to say it was a hit and run. And a very interesting thing happened when they were investigating the case. They kept getting tips in that was mentioning the Murdochs, that was mentioning Buster, Alec's son, the one who he didn't shoot. I'll put a screenshot up here of 2 of the tips. But Stephen was very well liked in the town. He was openly gay, and there was rumours that him and Buster were having some sort of relationship. Buster was not openly gay. the case was closed or went cold and everyone just forgot about it for a few years. But recently, this case was reopened due to the information found while the investigators were investigating the homicide of Paul and Maggie. So why did they reopen this? What did they find? Were people right all along? Second body, Gloria Satterfield. She was a housekeeper and nanny for 25 years who died on the Murdoch property. And we don't know much about this yet. A lot of this stuff is yet to come out. But Alec initially paid her estate $500,000 in a wrongful death suit. And for death number 3, we jumped to Mallory Beach and son Paul. Paul was out on the family boat, as you do when you have that kind of money, I suppose. He was piss drunk, crashed the boat, and Mallory was thrown overboard and drowned, and she wasn't found for about a week later. Paul was driving at the time. He was aggressive with others about driving. There was other people who wanted to drive the boat, but he was like, no, I'm driving. There's audio from when the 911 call goes in and when the officers are on the scene, and Paul is just there. He's not worried about Mallory. He's just crying for a phone. Give me a phone. So he can immediately call Daddy and get him to fix things for him. He didn't even give an alcohol test at the scene or in the hospital because Daddy stopped it. And it looked like he was going to get off for a while on all the charges, but eventually he was charged with, I think, 3 charges that were pending at the time of his death in relation to this. And Mallory's family also filed a civil lawsuit, which is very important. A sheriff, by the way, was also sacked because he had confirmed in documents. He was like, no, Paul was driving, and they were trying to get him to take that down, being like, no, he wasn't, it might have been someone else, you don't know that. He stuck to his guns, he got sacked. They said they found drugs in him or something like that. But there's a constant theme throughout here of money and entitlement and getting away with things. And then on 7th of June 2021, Maggie and Paul were shot to death out by the dog kennels. Straight away, Alec and the family were like, oh, there was people making threats to Paul. Maybe it's about that boat accident or something like that. Alec said he wasn't at the dog kennels recently. Like straight away at the start of the trial, they played a Snapchat that Paul had sent one of his friends, and Alec is in the background. So he was down at the dog kennels. He's interviewed in a car. He has his brother who's an attorney and another attorney who's a friend with him from the very, very start. And that's what he's on trial for at the moment. I'm not going to go too much into any of the details there. You'll find that in loads of other places. And a lot of it is going to be coming out in the next week or two. And initially after this, it looked like they cleared Alec. They were like, oh, he was at his father was dying at the time. He was in the hospital with him. He wasn't. He was actually visiting his mother. But the alibi was not as tight as anyone thought initially at the start, which is kind of getting into the case. I'm going to stay away from that. But just a quick timeline. So we had this happened in June. We jump forward a few months to September. The start of September, Alec resigned from the family's law firm. Turns out he stole millions. 1-2 days later, Alex does then the most stupidest thing. He fakes getting shot in the head. Said it was by a drive-by shooting. Just totally embarrassing. And then releases a statement saying, oh, I'm going into rehab there because I'm goosed from my son and my wife being murdered. But Alec and his house of cards was crumbling down. We found out he stole millions from his family law firm, from clients. Maggie, his wife, before her death, she hired a forensic accountant to go through the family books, as things just seemed a bit off to her, I think. And then we had the civil lawsuit that I mentioned with Mallory's family against Paul and the Murdoch family. And I think it was also against the shop that sold them the alcohol. But that lawsuit would have required a lot of the books and the financials to be handed over from the Murdoch family. So if that was handed over, this house of cards was going to come down. And then later in September, the police announced an investigation into the death of Gloria, body number 2, the housekeeper who died in 2018. Her family members filed a lawsuit saying that millions were stolen out of settlement funds related to her death. I think the very next day, bad few days for Alec, he was arrested and charged with fraud and conspiracy. He blamed the loss of his family, basically depression, painkillers, for coming up with that ridiculous plan. A couple of months later, with the Satterfields family, Murdoch came out and said he agreed to pay them $4.3 million which is insane. You're like, what's going on with all that money? Why are you giving him 4.3 million? Was there a separate settlement or something? And how did this woman die? Is there something you're trying to cover up, Alec? 6 months later, the police exhume her body. The same month, Alec is indicted on 2 conspiracy charges, including a drugs count. The following month, Alec is indicted on 2 counts of murder. The prosecutors said that he shot his wife with a rifle and his son with a shotgun. And last December, a grand jury indicted Alec on 10 counts of, I think, tax evasion. And the prosecutors in that case said he had defrauded a number of people of about 8.8 million. So he was robbing millions from people. The civil suit from Paul's case, with a highlight and all that. His wife hiring a forensic accountant, with a highlight and all that. His world was about to come down and he had to do something to try and stop it. And that's why I think he shot him. So that's all that stuff simplified for you, I hope, a little bit. The trial is going to be very interesting. It already is. It's going to be very interesting how they tell the story. I think it's going to be a battle of stories, a battle of storytelling. The Murdoch family, the extended family, all made a big show about coming into court and sitting behind Alec, and they're all supporting him. His attorney is doing a really good job. I don't know how the prosecution is going to be able to tell the story. It's fascinating and it's going to be very close, I think. I can't call it. I don't know which way it's going to go. Some of the evidence that the prosecution is using, especially around cycled bullets and stuff like that, I think is going to be taken down. I think the defence are going to have a good go off of a lot of the stuff that comes up in this case. But it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and it's not as confusing as you might initially think. It's like a TV show that has a number of spin-offs coming, but we don't need to worry about the spin-offs yet. It's very interesting. Let me know your thoughts, let me know what you think, and let me know what you think of the trial. Good luck, God bless. I hope everyone has a nice day.